Recording in progress.
All right, so we try to learn about functional strategy. We try to learn about strategic business unit, divisional as well. Now, if you combine all of those, like divisional structure, functional structure, strategic business unit, you will get a matrix structure, most complex of all design because it depends on both vertical and horizontal flow of authority and communication. So think about a vertical kind of an integration where you own similar kind of activities or you carry out similar kind of activities. At the same time you have the horizontal as well, because you do a kind of activities separate activities as well. Let's say you are responsible for manufacturing, but you do sales and marketing as well, you do logistics as well. So it's a combination of functional, divisional, and strategic business unit. When you have all of those things together, it is about your matrix structure. So for a matrix structure to be effective, organization need participating planning, training, clear mutual understanding of role and responsibility, excellent internal communication, mutual trust and confidence. You need all of those factors. Mutual understanding, you need the trust between people, between the people like working in a sector. So you need all of those sort of activities together. Yeah, you need all of those things together, and you need the confidence as well. So only then you will be able to sort of achieve the objective, and that's how the matrix structure could work. So what are the advantages and disadvantages? Yes, advantages, like for example, if we look at number 3, shutting down a project is easily accomplished. When you are in a matrix structure and there is a very specific things, one single strategic business unit or one single functional structure is carrying out and you want to discontinue, it's easy for you to do that, because you are not hampering the entire business, you are not hampering the entire structure. You can easily achieve this objective. For example, facilities uses for special equipment, personnel and facilities. You want to kind of focus on a specific objective. Yes, matrix structure can help you to achieve that. Projects objective are clear, like who's doing what, the responsibilities are really clear. So you don't need a kind of significant amount of kind of complexity in terms of responsibility. However, there are some disadvantages. One of the major disadvantages is it consumes significant amount of resource. You have to be really wealthy when you want to run a matrix structure. You have to have significant amount of access to resource. You have to have significant amount of money in terms of resource. Only then you will be able to sort of run a matrix structure. So you need to think about kind of multiple sources in terms of budget, like create dual lines of budget authority. You have to have more budget if you want to run a metric structure. Yes, there are problems with reward and penalty as well, because those are the disadvantage. Yes, those problems are there. I'm not saying the problem will be not there. Yes, the problems are there, but at the same time you need to be a pragmatic. You need to understand the reality from a pragmatic point of view. You need to think about like whether you will be able to sort of minimize the disadvantage, how you are going to achieve those objectives, and how you will be able to ensure the organization is running smoothly. So that's all about your matrix structure. Now, when you have all those sort of structure in place, like you have resource, you have a structure, but now still you are facing some difficulties, still you are facing problems, still you are facing challenges within your organization. Now, in those situations, you have two options. Number one, restructuring. Number two, re-engineering. Now, what are the difference between restructuring and re-engineering? So the fundamental difference between restructuring and re-engineering is here. Under the restructuring, you focus on downsizing, you focus on right sizing, or you focus on delayering. Now, these points are like, these are not welcomed by a lot of organization. Like, why you want to kind of downsize, why you want to fire employee, why you want to go for voluntary severance scheme or something like that, why you want to kind of let your employee leave the organization, fire employees, because it involves reducing the size of the firm in terms of number of employee, number of division unit, number of hierarchical level in firm's organizational structure. The moment you are reducing it, meaning that you might lose your job, that's restructuring, that is downsizing. You don't want to do that. Why you want to kind of do wrong with people? Why you want to let them leave the organization? Why you want to do that? That is something, no one wants that. No one wants to get fired. So you don't want to do that in terms of restructuring. One of the option is re-engineering, which is process management, process innovation, process design. You want to go for a process where you can effectively use the resource. Still, you don't need to fire employee from your organization, because you don't want to do that with people. You don't want to put those people in a situation where they are going to lose their job. You don't want that. You go for re-engineering. Involve reconfiguration or redesign of work, job, process for the purpose of improving cost, quality, service, and speed. That is something you want for your organization. So the point is, when you are in a dilemma whether you want to go for restructuring and re-engineering, most of the time, please try to follow re-engineering rather than restructuring. Make sense? Guys, make sense? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Do you understand the difference between restructuring and re-engineering, guys? Any question? Any question, guys? Any question you want to ask? All right. So, next is performance and pay. Now, none of the strategies will not work if you simply cannot evaluate performance and if you simply cannot reward people, reward your employee. Those will not work. So you have to ensure the performance is fully linked to your pay strategy as well. And how this will work? Delivering a transparency. Provide full transparency to your stakeholder, reward long-term performance with long-term pay rather than annual incentives. You can think of share option. You can think of ownership of the organization. A lot of organizations nowadays offer a long-term options in terms of ownership. You can think of those facilities as well. Those are really, really important. Then you can think of like time horizon of the business, replace short-term with long-term incentives, as I said. Multiple options you can think of, like the share option, which is really, really lucrative, really, really interesting in this part of the world. Let's say Facebook, Google, Alphabet, all of this sort of company normally exercise this sort of share option. Increase equity between worker and executive. Delete many special parts and benefit of executives. Like when you have like lots of part for executives, top level executive, and you are not rewarding employees in the middle and in the bottom of the pyramid, so definitely that is not a good strategy of an organization. So you have to ensure that you you satisfy the employees, otherwise they are not going to kind of work for you, they're not going to deliver the performance. You must ensure that. Make sense, guys? All right. Okay, so quiz time. Please use your cell phone and scan the QR code. Everyone, scan the QR code and answer. In a Vietnamese culture, do you think you will be awarded or rewarded fairly? Please scan the QR code. Let me zoom a bit. Yes. Oh, okay. Interesting. 50-50, rarely. All right, interesting. Please scan the QR code and answer. Everyone, please scan the QR code and answer, please. Please turn on your cam, otherwise the system will automatically absent you. Please make sure your webcam is on. Right. So, guys, can you? Yes, Gwen. Please ask the question. Please go ahead. You don't need to ask permission in terms of asking question. You just type in, or you can unmute and ask the question. Also, I have a question for you guys. Like some of you said, you cannot get or you cannot be rewarded fairly. You can unmute and talk, or you can type in the chat box like why you think you will not be awarded fairly. Please, I mean, you can type in the chat box. I'm more than happy to read it for you. So please type like why you think that it is reward is not transparent in Vietnam, and what could be the reason. If you can type in, please go ahead in the chat box. Do you understand the question? Or anyone in a Vietnamese language, can you please like type in the chat box like why you think reward is not there for you? Why you think that can happen, like it will be not transparent? Sorry, Gwen. Gwen, you can type in your 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 question. I can't hear you properly. I'm so sorry. on the chat box, could you please type like why you think in Vietnam, how exactly does shock-based compensation for executive work, and how can we balance actual company performance to prevent share price manipulation? How that is relevant? Uh, is stock-based compensation for executive like well stock-based compensation for executive work, it is more about like option Quen. So let's say the stock-based compensation is more about like when you are kind of working in an organization, they can give you an option to buy the stock of that particular company. That is a sort of a compensation, the stock based compensation. Let's say if you do well and if you really kind of do amazing work in an organization, you will be able to buy stock from an organization, from that particular organization, and yes, you will be able to kind of exercise. Now, actual company performance to prevent share price manipulation. The share price manipulation, it's more about when these sort of people, top executives, try to exercise their share and they want to sell those share in the secondary market. Now, that can be prevented. That can be prevented by a sort of a rules and regulation. So those rules and regulation are more about sort of like for a certain period of time, you just simply not simply you are not allowed to sort of sell those share. So if that is the case, if the company, if that particular executive is not allowed to sell that particular share in a certain period of time, yes, this is one of the ways you can kind of control the manipulation, because they normally do that. They issue certain number of shares to top executive, and then those top executive always can sort of sell those share in a secondary market and to manipulate the share price. But in reality, let's say in this part of the world, Europe, UK, mostly like in this part of the world, yeah, they just simply cannot do that. So that is the sort of answer to your question. So yeah, but the question I wanted to ask, guys, anyone, um, can you just tell me like why you think reward system is not fair or transparent in Vietnam? Why you think that? Or any example, anything in your mind, if you want to share with me. You can unmute and talk, or you can type in the chat box. Just type like why you think it is not fair. Just type something. Hi, Han, Viet. Yeah, just type something. Why do you think it is not transparent in Vietnam? We have Thai, Ni as well. I can see Ni. I can see her head only, some hair. So why you think transparent? In Vietnam, it is not transparent. Reward system is not transparent. Type something. Come on. Go ahead, guys. We have Mean as well. Recruitment based on relationship. Interesting. Nepotism. Wow. That's interesting. Dang. That is really interesting. Yes. I mean, recruitment based on relationship. Yes, it can happen. We call it nepotism. So nepotism is one of the kind of a thing that can happen as well in many places. And yeah, but in terms of reward, guys, what do you think? Like, this is recruitment, so that's not transparency in the recruitment system. But let's say once the recruitment is done, and then when it is time for reward, what can then happen? Like why that particular system is not transparent, or how that can happen? Like, do you think that is common in Vietnam? Excuse me. Do you think that is common in Vietnam? Like after the recruitment, do you think the reward system is fair? Like you work really, really hard, but then do you think that chances of getting rewarded is low? And what could be the reason? Anyone? I mean, some of you are already working in company, right? A younger worker may perform better, but still get paid less than older peer. Yes, could be, but hi. The point is, yes, younger people, they can perform better than a older peer. But hi, don't you think that older peer is really, really more experienced, and they are earning more money because of their experience, and they can get the job done with less error and more effectively? I understand from where you are coming from. But yes, of course, younger worker, they can work really hard. I completely understand that, and I agree with you. Young people can work really hard, but they are getting paid less. It's not because I think working really hard or working not hard, or two things here. You mentioned about still get paid less. One is the young or worker is getting low payment. On the other perspective is that the older guy is making more money. Now the point is, when this young guy will get older, then they are going to make more money in their time compared to the young guy. You see the dilemma here. Maybe you start with 1 million dong, for example, per week salary, 1 million dong per week, you start. And when you will get older, when that young person, let's consider you, hi, let's consider you as a person. Let's say you are young, you are making 1 million per week, for example, but when you will get older, you will make 10 million per week. And when you are older, then that young guy you mentioned right now, they can work really hard, but still they can make 1 million. They will not make 10 million per week, for example, the way you are making, or when you will become older. So you see the dilemma here. There is a complexity involved, because that complexity is coming from experience. That complexity is coming from experience, because with your experience high, you will be delivering more effective, less error work. Maybe the young person is working really hard, but on the other hand, that older person can really do a lot of things that the young person cannot do. So there is an experience curve here. Yeah, thank you so much, Hai. Well, that is justification, Hai. This level of criticality, I'm not saying I'm right. I might be wrong, but prove me I'm wrong. You have to give a justification to prove me wrong. That's how you justify. It is not about right or wrong. We are not in a conversation like you are right, I am wrong, I am right, you are wrong. No, we are not having this conversation. Hi, it is not about right or wrong. It is more about what kind of story you want to tell, how you want to justify the argument. Make sense? Hi. So in your examination, we want to see this level of argument. We want to see this level of justification. It is not about whether you are answering right or wrong. It is more about, yes, I'm more than happy to accept your answer. Justify. Justify your position. Justify your argument. That is something we want to see. That is something we want to kind of see in your report, in your final examination. Okay, now Han also Han also highlighted 2 points. Number one, low paid position but requiring many tasks and objective without reasonable reward. Yes, low paid position. Han, at the very beginning, you already mentioned it is low paid position. If it is a low paid position, Han, it will be extremely difficult to kind of promote. Even if the promotion is there, that will be low paid as well, because at the beginning you already give a tag, so the tag is already there, it's low paid, so the reward will be low as well. If it is a high paid, chances of getting high reward is much higher. Han, make sense? Do you understand from where I'm coming from? So that's the answer to your sort of first argument. Some company do not have performance evaluation system. I absolutely agree with you. That is absolutely a rubbish strategy. It is extremely bad when you do not have a formal performance evaluation matrix. Employees may not understand why others receive bonuses while others do not. Absolutely on point, Han. Yes, there are complexity involved, there are issues involved, and there are situations where employees don't understand that. And that is frustrating. That is extremely frustrating when you will see your friend, maybe two or three of you, let's say, working in an organization. You are not getting rewarded, however your friends are getting rewarded. When you will see such kind of thing, definitely that is frustrating, that is extremely frustrating, and I completely agree with you on that. So this sort of thing can happen. This can create perception of unfairness. Yes, it can create frustration, it can create lots of confusion, and again, yes, unfairness as well, because you really don't know why other people are getting rewarded where you are working really hard and you are not receiving the bonuses, or you are not having such kind of, like, yeah, you are not rewarded. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating in conversation. All right, let's move on. So, managing resistance to change. So when I mean both of you, Han and Hai, both of you mentioned 2 points which are relevant. So younger people getting less payment compared to older people, and then Han, you highlighted that there is a problem in terms of performance evaluation. But how to change the culture? What to do? We need a strategy. If you look at the slide, number one, we have force change strategy. Very much order and law and order. Like, you create a strategy and you enforce them. Involve giving orders and enforcing those orders. Like, you just come up with a strategy and you want to follow the strategy, you want to implement, very straightforward. However, the world is not perfect, and that's not going to happen in an imperfect world. So what can happen? Educative change strategy. You want to create an environment. You want to create a enlighten people, present information to convince people for a need for change. For example, Han, you mentioned about there is no performance evaluation system. Now, if you can go to your colleagues, if you can talk with your colleagues, and if you can create an environment, if there are like more people, your friends and other people thinking that yes, we really need a performance evaluation matrix within this organization, you can create a group, you can just just kind of um, just kind of like some people, you can create a group and then go to you, the line manager, or submit a written kind of a request to your manager of that particular organization that look, we really need a sort of a performance evaluation matrix or performance evaluation system. We want to sort of follow that one. So that is your educative change strategy. You want to create an environment within your organization or the organization you are working. That is one way to kind of achieve the objective. And number three, self-interest change strategy. You really don't bother about what others people are doing. You really don't bother what your employees are getting in terms of bonuses. You just focus on your own thing. Like as long as you are getting the bonuses, as long as you are awarded, you are rewarded because for your work, you are happy, you are fully happy, you are fully sort of happy with your with your doings, and that's fine. So convince individual that the change is to their personal advantage. So you go to your line manager, you go to your evaluator, and you just tell like, I really don't bother what others employees are getting, what others employees are rewarded or not. I'm just bothering about my bonus. I'm just bothering about my reward, and just give me the bonus, give me the reward, and I'm super happy. That is the self-interest change strategy. So the third one. So, as I said, of course, we need a culture. We need a communities of learning culture. We need a kind of a formal strategy so that it's not just kind of one time. And we can kind of formulate a strategy within an organization to ensure fair pay and transparency, to ensure fair reward system. And that can be only happen if you can create a supportive culture, a strategy supportive culture, like employees in an organization in total, like all of the people within that organization support that. So you can have like the philosophy charter, and you can kind of have a fair recruitment and selection kind of a system. Like dang, you already mentioned about nepotism, recruitment based on relationship, you mentioned that, and we can kind of remove that particular thing via kind of a fair recruitment and selection process. And if we have a policy, design a physical space, building infrastructure, those are the things are needed. Deliberate role in terms of modeling, teaching, coaching by leaders. You have to ensure the role model. You need to find the role model. You need to kind of find the sort of kind of a training and coaching system. You have to have that sort of activities within the organization. Explicit, I mean, Han mentioned about it, performance evaluation. You need to have a kind of a system in place, a reward system, performance evaluation system, so that you can kind of create a kind of an environment within an organization. So these are the points are necessary for a proper strategy, a proper implementation strategy. And without this sort of supportive culture, you will not be able to kind of create an outstanding strategy. So furthermore, you also need kind of the leaders, the leader of the organization, so that they pay attention to, measure, and control not just the culture. You need an amazing boss. You need an amazing leader who care about you, who empower you, who help you to achieve your dreams. That is something you need. That is something you need to support. You need those sort of things. Leaders' reaction to critical incidents, organizational crises, criteria used for recruitment, selection, promotion, leveling off, retirement, excommunication. You need all these strategy in place so that you can build a supportive culture. You can work under a leader who empower you, who help you to achieve your dreams as well. So these are some of the points for you, like in your examination, in your assignment, when you are talking about supportive organizational culture, you should kind of touch upon on this sort of points, like about recruitment, about training, about promotion. You need transparency, about restructuring if you need, but try not to go for restructuring. Try to go for re-engineering, where you follow your process innovation, you follow effectiveness, you follow economies of scale, you follow economies of scope. Those are all the part of re-engineering. You try to identify a role modeling. You try to encourage mentoring and training within your organization. All of these are necessary for a supportive organizational culture in order to promote a strategy oriented kind of function. This is something related to restructuring. Number 5. The restructuring point is related to labor cost saving tactics. So the cost of running an organization is getting higher, higher, and higher. What you can do in terms of save some cost? First of all, we really don't want to fire employee. We don't want that. So salary freeze, hiring freeze, these are not good thing. Salary reduction, not a good thing. Reduce employee benefit, again, not a good thing. There are like lots of points here. These are not good. But why we are discussing this? Because in reality, a lot of company does do that. A lot of company, they follow this sort of tactics, and they do that in terms of reducing the cost. These are not welcome. These are not good. Layoff, it's not good. Early retirement, not good. Absolutely not good. So these are some tactics, but again, I repeat, these are not good tactics. But in a pragmatic world, in an imperfect world, people do that. People do that, companies do that. So that's why the points are highlighted. That's all actually for today. So, any question, guys? Do you have any questions for me? Let me stop recording. Right.
Recording stopped.
Right. So, any question, guys? Any question for me? We finished 30 minutes early, so that's good. Any question, guys? You can type in. If you have any question, you can type in. Or if you don't have any question, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for attending the online class. I really appreciate. And you can leave. If you have any question, feel free to stay. If you want to have, let's say, some private conversation, please stay. Otherwise, you can leave now. We are done. We are done for